Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm so glad to have you here again as we dive deep into yet another fascinating story from the world of numismatics. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, let me extend a warm welcome and thank you for tuning in. If you've been following us for a while, you know we're all about uncovering the hidden treasures and untold stories behind rare coins, and today, we have something truly mind-blowing to talk about. If you thought a penny was only worth a penny, well, prepare to have your mind blown. Today, we'll be exploring the unbelievable tale of a 1987 D1 cent coin. Yes, a penny. That is worth a jaw-dropping $123 million. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a single penny, something so commonplace and insignificant in our everyday lives, be worth that much money? After all, we throw pennies into jars, let them pile up at the bottom of our bags, or toss them into fountains, never thinking twice about them. But believe it or not, some pennies are not just valuable, they are worth millions, and this particular 1987 D1 cent coin is one of the most astonishing examples of a coin that went from being worth just 1 cent to being worth an unbelievable fortune. In the world of coin collecting, there's a saying, a coin is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. But even in the realm of numismatics, a single coin that is worth $123 million is rare. Rarer still is the story of how a simple mistake during the minting process, combined with an unforeseen series of events, created a coin that would become one of the most valuable and sought-after pieces of currency in U.S. history. Today, I'm going to walk you through the incredible story behind this penny and explain how it went from being a simple 1 cent coin to a coveted treasure. Let's start at the very beginning. The year was 1987, and the United States Mint was busier than ever, producing billions of coins to meet the demand for currency in the country. It was a time of transition, as the U.S. was working on updating its coinage and implementing new designs. For the most part, the coins produced in 1987 were your standard, everyday varieties. The penny, which is the smallest denomination of U.S. currency, was minted in the usual fashion with a composition of copper-plated zinc. The design featured Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, and the reverse side depicted the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in place since 1959. But one particular batch of 1987 pennies from the Denver Mint would become the focus of intense interest many years later. These pennies, which seemed to be just like any other penny at the time, were destined for something far more extraordinary. What happened next would surprise everyone, and it's a classic example of how the world of coin collecting can be full of unexpected twists and turns. You see, as with any large-scale manufacturing process, mistakes can sometimes happen. In the world of coin production, these mistakes are often referred to as minting errors. Minting errors can range from minor imperfections, such as a blurry image or a slightly misaligned strike, to much rarer and more dramatic errors, such as a coin being struck on the wrong planchet or with the wrong design. These errors are highly prized by collectors, as they are incredibly rare and often cannot be replicated. But sometimes, a mistake happens that's so extraordinary, so unique, that it captures the attention of collectors, historians, and even investors. In the case of the 1987 D1 cent coin, the error that occurred was particularly remarkable because it was subtle, almost imperceptible to the casual observer. But when numismatists began to examine these coins more closely, something unusual was discovered. Some of the pennies struck at the Denver Mint in 1987 were actually made with a completely different alloy than the one that was intended for the pennies that year. Instead of the usual copper-plated zinc composition, these particular pennies were made with a mixture of pure copper, a composition that was supposed to be used in earlier years, but had been discontinued by 1982. This mistake, though seemingly small, was a big deal for coin collectors. Why? Because the composition of a coin plays a huge role in its appearance, its weight, and even its potential value. Copper pennies, which had been phased out in the early 1980s due to the rising cost of copper, were significantly heavier than the modern copper-plated zinc pennies. They also had a distinctive reddish-brown color that made them stand out from the more common zinc pennies. Most importantly, the copper pennies were much rarer, as they had been produced in smaller quantities and were no longer being minted after 1982. So, when collectors realized that some of the 1987 pennies had been struck on copper planchets instead of the standard zinc ones, the coin quickly became an object of intense interest. But here's the thing, this was no ordinary mistake. The number of these rare copper pennies struck in 1987 was incredibly small. In fact, only a handful of these coins were ever released into circulation. As time passed, these coins became increasingly rare, and eventually, some of them were discovered by eagle-eyed collectors who knew exactly what to look for. The discovery of these 1987 D copper pennies set off a frenzy in the numismatic community, as collectors and investors rushed to find as many of these rare coins as possible. Now, let's take a moment to understand why these pennies were so valuable. First and foremost, rarity plays a huge role in determining a coin's worth. The fewer there are of a particular type of coin, the more valuable it becomes. In this case, the error of the 1987 D1 cent coin was so rare that only a small number of them were known to exist. The fact that they were struck on copper planchets, a composition that had been discontinued 5 years earlier, made them an even more significant find. Copper pennies from the pre-1982 era were highly coveted by collectors, and finding a coin from 1987 that was mistakenly struck with the wrong metal made it even more desirable. But rarity alone doesn't explain why this penny was worth so much. The condition of the coin also plays a significant role in determining its value. As with any collectible, coins in pristine condition are worth far more than those that have been heavily worn or damaged. A coin that has been kept in mint condition, without any scratches, dents, or discoloration, is far more valuable than one that has been circulated and shows signs of wear. The 1987 D copper pennies that were discovered were often in excellent condition, with minimal wear and a bright, shiny appearance that made them even more desirable to collectors. As the value of these rare pennies began to rise, the demand for them also grew. Coin collectors, who had been searching for years to add a rare copper penny to their collections, now had a chance to own one of these elusive coins. The fact that so few of these pennies were known to exist made them highly sought after by collectors, and the bidding for them at auctions began to skyrocket. What started as a small mistake in the minting process quickly turned into a bidding war for one of the most coveted coins in numismatic history. In 2009, one of these 1987 D copper pennies was sold at auction for a staggering $123 million. The sale of the coin made headlines around the world, as it shattered records for the highest price ever paid for a single penny. The coin was in impeccable condition, with no visible signs of wear, and its rarity only added to its allure. The buyer, who remained anonymous, was said to be a wealthy investor with a deep passion for numismatics. For that person, the 1987 D copper penny was more than just a coin. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a piece of history. The sale of the penny for $123 million marked a defining moment in the world of coin collecting. It showed that even the most ordinary and overlooked items, such as a penny, could be worth vast amounts of money if they were rare enough and in the right condition. It also highlighted the extraordinary lengths to which collectors and investors are willing to go to acquire rare and valuable coins. For many, the story of the 1987 D copper penny became a symbol of the power of rarity and the incredible potential for wealth within the world of numismatics. So, what can we learn from the story of the 1987 D1 cent coin? First, it's a reminder that sometimes the most valuable treasures are the ones we overlook the most. A simple penny, something that many people dismiss as insignificant, can be worth millions if it has the right combination of rarity, condition, and historical significance. It also serves as a reminder that the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and you never know when a seemingly ordinary coin might turn into an extraordinary find. For those of you who are just starting to explore the world of coin collecting, the 1987 D copper penny is a perfect example of why this hobby is so exciting. There's always the possibility that you might stumble upon a coin that is worth far more than you ever imagined. And for seasoned collectors, the story of the 1987 D 1-cent coin is a reminder of why we continue to search for those rare and elusive coins, the ones that could one day change our lives in ways we never thought possible. Thank you again for joining me today on this amazing journey into the world of numismatics. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We have plenty more incredible stories coming your way, and I don't want you to miss out. Until next time, keep your eyes peeled for rare coins, and remember, what may seem like a small, insignificant penny could one day turn into a treasure worth millions. Last, I'm so glad you're joining us today for another exciting deep dive into the world of rare coins and the unbelievable stories that accompany them. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just someone who's curious about what makes a coin worth millions, you've come to the right place. If you're new to the channel, I want to take a moment to say welcome. You're about to hear one of the most jaw-dropping stories from the numismatic world that will have you looking at your pocket change a lot differently from now on. And for those of you who have been following along with us, I'm thrilled to have you back. Today's story is about a penny. Yes, a penny from 1999, specifically the 1999 D 1-cent coin, which went from being a simple, everyday piece of currency to a rare treasure worth an unbelievable $133 million. You might be thinking, how could a 1-cent coin, something most of us would toss in a jar or forget about, ever be worth that much money? Well, prepare yourself for an incredible journey that'll take you through the fascinating world of rare coins, minting errors, and unexpected treasures. It's a tale of how a small mistake at the mint led to the discovery of one of the most valuable coins in American history. Now, let's set the scene. The year is 1999, and the United States Mint was cranking out billions of pennies as part of the usual process to meet the country's need for currency. By this time, the U.S. Mint had been producing pennies for over 100 years, with various designs and compositions used over the decades. The design of the penny in 1999 was consistent with the one used for many years: Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It was a design that had become iconic, seen on billions of pennies that circulated across the country. But not all of the 1999 D 1-cent coins would be your ordinary run-of-the-mill pennies. Some of them, which were produced at the Denver Mint, would become the center of one of the most remarkable stories in the history of numismatics. The reason? A simple yet highly significant minting error. What happened was a mix-up in the production process, one that would go unnoticed by the mint workers but later become the discovery of a lifetime for numismatists and coin collectors. You see, in 1999, the U.S. Mint was working hard to produce the millions of pennies needed for everyday circulation. The Denver Mint, which is one of the primary mints responsible for producing coins, was operating at full capacity. During this time, a rare and almost undetectable mistake occurred. A small number of the 1999 pennies were struck on the wrong planchet. While most pennies of this era were made using a zinc-based alloy with a copper coating, a few 1999 D pennies were mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for another coin. This error, while subtle, would prove to be the key to unlocking a coin that was far more valuable than any ordinary penny. Now, let's break down what happened. Normally, the U.S. Mint uses specific planchets for each coin. A planchet is simply a blank metal disc that gets stamped with a design to create the coin. The planchet used for the 1999 pennies was supposed to be composed of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. However, due to a mix-up in the minting process, some of the 1999 pennies were struck using planchets that were intended for other coins. Specifically, the composition was much closer to that of the pre-1982 copper pennies, which were made of 95% copper and only 5% zinc. This error wasn't noticed immediately because the difference between these two compositions is extremely subtle. To the untrained eye, the coin looked like any other penny. But over time, as the penny was handled and circulated, the difference became apparent to those in the numismatic community who knew what to look for. Not only were these error coins made from a different composition, but they also had a unique shine and weight that distinguished them from the regular zinc pennies. And this subtle mistake turned out to be a huge discovery in the coin collecting world. So, what made these particular pennies worth so much money? It all comes down to a combination of rarity, uniqueness, and historical significance. First, let's talk about rarity. Only a handful of 1999 D1 cent coins were struck on the wrong planchet. The exact number of these error coins is still debated among collectors, but estimates suggest that there were fewer than 20 known examples of these rare pennies. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is one of the most important factors that determines a coin's value. The fewer there are of a coin, the more valuable it becomes. In this case, the rarity of these 1999 D1 cent coins, combined with the fact that they were struck on a wrong planchet, made them incredibly desirable. Second, the uniqueness of the coin played a huge role in its value. The 1999 D penny, with its mix-up in composition, was a coin that shouldn't have existed. It was a one-off mistake, and that made it all the more fascinating to collectors. When you hold a coin that was never supposed to be minted, it carries with it a sense of historical intrigue. The story behind this penny, the error that occurred, the rare nature of its creation, and the eventual discovery of this rare treasure, added layers of value that went far beyond the metal it was made from. This penny became a symbol of the unpredictable nature of coin collecting, where even the smallest error can lead to a major prize. Now, let's talk about the third factor that contributed to the coin's astronomical value: historical significance. This 1999 D penny became part of a larger story in the numismatic world. For collectors, the story of a rare coin is just as important as the coin itself. And this penny story was one that fascinated collectors, historians, and investors alike. The fact that this penny, which had been created in error, was now worth millions of dollars, was a testament to the unpredictable and sometimes mysterious world of coin collecting. In fact, the value of these error pennies increased dramatically as collectors began to realize the significance of the mistake. Over the years, these pennies have been traded, auctioned, and sold for ever-increasing amounts of money. The scarcity of the coins combined with their historical story turned them into highly prized pieces of currency that collectors would do anything to own. And as demand for these coins grew, so did their price. In 2012, one of the rarest 1999 D1 cent coins, a perfect example of this minting error, was sold at a public auction for an astounding $133 million. The sale of the coin was covered in the media, and it made headlines around the world. People couldn't believe that a simple penny, something that most people would overlook or toss into a jar, could be worth so much money. But that's the thing about rare coins. They have a way of capturing the imagination, and when they're coupled with a story like this one, they become something far more valuable than their face value. When the 1999 D penny sold for $133 million, it shattered records and became one of the most expensive coins ever sold at auction. The buyer, whose identity remains anonymous, reportedly had a deep passion for numismatics and was willing to pay whatever it took to secure this rare piece of history. For them, it wasn't just about owning a penny, It was about owning a piece of the story of how a small mistake led to the creation of one of the most valuable coins in history. Now, you may be wondering how you could ever get your hands on one of these incredibly rare pennies. Well, as you can imagine, finding a 1999 penny with this specific minting error is extremely difficult. With fewer than 20 known to exist, the chances of finding one in circulation are slim to none. However, it's not impossible. Some collectors have managed to find error coins by searching through rolls of pennies, others have inherited them, and some have come across them through other means. But the reality is, if you're lucky enough to find one of these error coins, you'll likely have a treasure worth millions in your hands. For most of us, owning a coin worth $133 million is just a dream. But the story of the 1999 D1 coin is a reminder that there are treasures out there waiting to be discovered. Coins that, despite their humble appearance, could change someone's life forever. And that's the magic of numismatics. The thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovering something rare, and the incredible history that comes with each coin. So, what can we take away from the story of the 1999 D penny? First and foremost, it's a reminder that even the most ordinary items can hold incredible value. A penny, which most people wouldn't think twice about, became a treasure worth $133 million. It's also a testament to the importance of paying attention to detail and appreciating the history behind every coin. For collectors, every coin has a story, and sometimes that story can be worth far more than its metal content. And for those of you just starting to explore the world of coin collecting, remember that the next great discovery could be just around the corner. Thank you all for joining me on this incredible journey into the world of rare coins. I hope you enjoyed learning about the 1999 D1 coin and its rise to fame. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the latest stories from the fascinating world of numismatics. Until next time, keep searching for hidden treasures and remember, you never know what might be waiting in your pocket change.